body and vice versa. So when thorax changes into a bugbear, there's a bugbear out there somewhere that just suddenly has thorax's body.
You really should go up to furry cons because that's like a story and furries would be creating right there.
I don't know.
Actually, yeah. And if you guys seen the new Netflix show Disenchantment, the same guy who did The Simpsons and Futurama, when the prince accidentally got Alfo's blood with the pig blood mixed in, the prince turned into a pig, but then the pig had to turn into that prince's body to, equate the mass. So and there we go.
Just as a note, everyone keeps referring to me as Lucy.
All right, thank you for your question.
All right, so given ponies' unique body structure and means of manipulation, what weapons do you think they would use?
Okay.
You're dressed for the
My weapons are currently going to the tabletop room where we're going to do an event later. But the weapons they would use, well, we see them use swords and spears. I think they would definitely be a lot more reliant on things with reach if they were having to use melee weapons. This is simply because if you're trying to use a sword, sword's a very close-in weapon. And if you have a body that is much longer than taller, and you're trying to use a weapon that requires you to be very close, this is not a good idea. Because as soon as you spin or get a good connection, it becomes very easy to flank you and hit you in the side. So instead, from an ancient weapons perspective, ponies would probably be much more reliant on phalanx. Or they would be reliant on weapons they can attach to their hooves and use for their hooves. Think like brass knuckles or spiked horseshoes, or something that would just let them use their natural bare hooves. Lastly, because the unicorns have a horn, and the horn is very resilient, it would become very easy to just encase that in a much more thicker, harder substance, and then have the horn divert magic into it to reinforce that substance. So you end up with the equivalent of a horn spike that is potentially as armor-piercing as an anti-tank shell. From a modern perspective, you would definitely be looking at weapons that would fit in their mouths. Because earth ponies and pegasi would, unless they have the ability to pick up things with their tail or wings, which we've seen from both species, but it's very rare. Unless they have that capability, they need their primary means of manipulation is their mouth. So everything would be designed around putting a trigger or putting a mechanism to discharge a firearm into their mouth. So in that respect, Fallen Equestria probably got it right.
Next question.
Okay, so for Tank's flying device, what's the power source and how is he able to control it?
So we already see magic as some form of energy in that world. So it's the equivalent to how we use electricity. We can harness electricity, we can even store electricity in temporary batteries, or we can hook it up to an outlet. I think Tank's device has to be the magical equivalent of an external battery.
Okay.
That's as simple as that.
I also want to point out that a turtle shell has about 62% space that isn't actually used by the turtle. This is so that if they can store food or other things in it for long term, for if a predator is going to try to wait it out for several hours, they can sit in there and just lunch. So they probably just opened up his shell and just put a battery in there for him. Maybe give him a little nightlight. That had to be painful though.
All right, thank you.
Body horror.
Frankenstein turtle.
Okay,
David Cronenberg's My Little Pony.
I really quickly wanted to elaborate on the previous thing that was said about using the horn to strengthen the metal or another material. Wouldn't that require you turning the energy of magic into mass to strengthen?
They use shields all the time. And those shields have mass.
But how does that? Well, I guess maybe that should be a question. How do magic shields work?
Well, to me, that would indicate that they're literally charging the air particles. So I'll give you an example. If you were to pressurize this room to 50 psi, we would all die.
Yes.
Because it would be the equivalent of all of us being in a vat of concrete that's solidified as far as our ability to breathe. So if they simply are using their will to increase the density of the air particles, they can then use that to create the shield, because the air particles are now so dense that it's like punching a brick wall. The stronger the unicorn, the denser you can make it.
Okay, so back to my thing. We were talking about really strong bones and whatnot, and poking through metal and whatever. That was my area of expertise, where I wanted to kind of nerd out a little bit, because I worked with bone doctors, orthopedic surgeons. And basically, like if your bones in your body are only as strong as they need to be. Like it's weird, but you know how your bones are a certain shape? Like they grow that way because of how we use them. So that's why when you stop using them, when you go to space, you get weaker. But when you do use them a lot, or when you create those microfractures, which is what you were talking about, with getting really strong fingers, poking like watermelon and stuff. The fingers would develop microfractures, and then the osteocytes, since you're still moving the bone, it would repair itself slowly over time, get stronger and stronger and stronger. But the only way to do that is to keep using it that way for years and years and years. So you can't just become that strong overnight.
Our enamel is stronger than the rest of our body because we keep on using it every day for munching.
So then that comes to the thing of in season 8 when they showed the X-ray of Twilight and her heart broke. and it was in the X-ray.
I just want to point out, you work with bones, so
I don't work with bones. I was working with a bunch of bone doctors, though.
Okay, so you're not a doctor. I will walk up to you and go tell my doctor he's a very rich man.
Yeah.
Teleportation. How does it work?
Okay, so there are two methods of teleportation that we have theorized about. Method 1 is the Star Trek method. I hate this method for a very simple reason. Method 1 requires you to disassemble the body into a matter stream of ionized particles to shoot at light speed from point A to point B. Here's the one problem with that. The person that you teleported from point A is no longer the person you teleported from point B because you killed them. The person at point B is a brand new entity that has been formed from the matter of the previous person at point A. That's method 1. Method 2 is the method I kind of like, and it's referred to as space folding. And this has been a theory since, the 70s?
Dune.
Oh, yeah, it's the one where they always describe it with a napkin.
It is the idea that if you look at the universe and can figure out what point A is and what point B is and cause them to match and sync up at space and time through means of electrical current, which Nikola Tesla started theorizing about this in the 20s, then you basically create a point in which point A and point B, the space is 0. So the distance between point A and point B becomes 0, you then just walk through. This is why for some unicorns teleportation is, and then we see for others it's because the amount of space they're folding, the distance they're closing between point A and point B will be shorter based on how much magical energy they can summon and use to that effect. So this is why Starlight actually teleports slower than Twilight, and why Twilight just seems to be able to go whee! Because she's really good at it. She understands all the mechanics.
She had to work at it, though.
Yeah.
She did.
And it seems like in that case, they would be basically taking their body to a higher dimension temporarily. Because when we think about it, if we're currently existing in a 4-dimensional space but in 3-dimensional bodies, if we could experience our 4-dimensional space in 4 dimensions, time would no longer be the construct we have to focus with. We don't go in one direction, we go back and forth in our timelines. A good example is a comic book, for example, would be a 2D structure to a 3D structure. So, for example, I could see the character in this one part, I could flash back to the end, and hey, there you are. So I can see where she is, and I could go back to this time period. Because I'm a 3D creature, I could use and make use of this 2D dimension. And if these were sentient beings, and they were seeing me here, oh, I'm here, all of a sudden I disappear, and I'm looking at them again from an earlier point or time period, to them, it'll look like I am teleporting, but it's just me. It's just them perceiving me from a lower dimension.
Now I just have this flashback to where the episode really wanted to be.
Yeah, that was a good one. Futurama has a lot of good science.
Okay, if a changeling has to change to a gender that they do not identify with, would they experience some gender dysphoria? And how would they deal with this?
Okay, so if you suddenly switch from one sex to the other, your balance is off automatically. Because hip bones and pelvic areas are shaped completely differently, for completely different purposes. 2, the way the brain works in relationship to your sexual organs, and this is the actual current, I wouldn't say theory at this point, this is proven fact. This is why transgender individuals develop, is because the brain gets told to do this during development, and the body gets told to do this, And now the brain is receptive to certain hormones that the body doesn't produce. So when they flip, they still have that brain that is no longer receptive to the sex hormones their body is producing. What this results in, the best description I can possibly give you, is a feeling of disjointment between body and brain, in which, if you've ever seen like Men in Black, I know it dates my age, but the alien inside the suit, where he's controlling the suit that looks like a very older suit.
Egger suit.
Yeah. So that alien is the equivalent of what they're experiencing at the moment. Their brain physically understands this is their body, but their brain feels like there is a short circuit between their body and its controls.
Next.
Okay, so from chemistry class, we all know and love the Gibbs free energy law, the delta G equals delta H minus T delta S. Long and short, if you randomize something, it takes energy input, and that has to do with temperature. And if you unrandomize something, or no, I'm backwards, but randomness is lower energy than unrandomness. Long story short, how did Discord not both freeze the world over and set the world on fire in doing all the stuff that he did?
I'm scared. Somebody's walking forward.
Excuse me, I just want to ask Simon something. Is this the right time or should I catch it out?
I need to go. I need to get the card from.
I was about to say, I'm scared. I see somebody walking forward with one of my wild things.
There's a booze exchange.
If you have any of these left, you guys should check out these bottles. They're really great. I love it.
Is that one still the one from Crystal Fair?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we emptied it out so that I could fill it up with something else.
And it's about to be filled with something else.
Yeah.
He's washed it too.
Yeah, we just washed it. All right, sorry to interrupt.
Unintentional plug.
So, randomness. I honestly don't know how Discord doesn't set the world on fire unless what we appear to think of as random, he thinks of as absolute order. He is literally planning this out verbatim. This is why Discord seems so much more powerful, is that he's not doing it randomly. He's doing it on purpose.
Yeah, but
I'm working on my own story about that.
Still energy system, you'd freeze everything.
And you notice that Discord's chaos is more just chaos to the ponies. To him it works just fine. It's like buffalo, let's do that. Rabbits with legs that could make a gazelle blush, let's do that. And while it seems like chaos to us and the ponies, to him it's just every day.
Yeah.
So to quote a really bad movie, to you it was the most important day of your life. To me, it was Tuesday.
What movie's that?
Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we have probably about 5 minutes left. We're going to try and quickly go through these questions. We might not be able to take all of you, but just quick questions now.
Ready, lightning round.
Go.
How does Pinkie Pie work?
That was my question.
Well, I suppose we better get out of the line.
How does Pink Demon Horse work? Pink Demon Horse is an eldritch abomination that is reaching through multiple dimensions simultaneously and is able to see all of time and space through extensions known as Pinkie Pie. All Pinkie Pies are connected to a central hub through this time and space dimension. This is why Pinkie Pie can see into the Equestria Girls universe and backwards. This is why it didn't matter which one went home and which one didn't for the mirror pool, because they're all just extensions of the same being.
If you're interested, Grant Morrison actually has a good speech on it called the Gaia Effect or the Hyperorganism. So look it up.
What he said.
Yep. All right, next.
How Spitfire's main do that, though?
That's called jail.
No, I mean, like, you can fly it and, whip it around, but it always gets back to the same spot.
That's strength hair gel.
Magic. Lots and lots of hairspray.
You have unicorn.
It's magic hair gel.
There you go. Next.
How come the EQG Fluttershy can hold a conversation with animals? Because with the main Pony Universe one, it can be assumed all animals have some form of sapience due to the past of magic. But other than being Equestria's dumping ground, the Equestria Girls world is just supposed to be the normal real world.
Okay, so wild and flourish talk animals?
Why can the EQG one can? Since the animals of that world wouldn't be intelligent enough to do so.
Understand something, that there is a lot of either conscious or unconscious learned behavior when it comes to interacting with animals, to the point at which, while yes, you can talk to animals and you cannot understand what they're saying, what they're trying to get at, that is because you have taken years or literal decades of your life to study animal behavior in such a way that you begin to interpret the non-verbal signals being sent to you. So when they actually are verbal, it's like talking to your cat. You want food?